Hi everybody. Just a few quick announcements before I actually get into Christravaganza. I'm very bad at math, and this is like the first time that I've ever done anything quite as elaborate or organized, but there are things that my friends have mentioned are confusing, or that you as commenters and viewers have mentioned that I might be doing not necessarily wrong, but like not in the smartest, fair way. Every one of my friends that I've talked to about this series has pointed out that the total points for every movie makes no sense. That's being completely forgotten about. Second order of business is one of you, and I don't remember which one, and I'm sorry about that, pointed out on the first video that Rotten Tomatoes actually has its own average score out of 10 points, and that by giving Rotten Tomatoes the most amount of points that you can get, I was giving the Rotten Tomatoes score a lot more power than my own score. My score and the guest scores need to be at least as important as the scores from the internet to make this as fair a judgment as possible. Thank you to the person that commented and told me about this, because I genuinely did not know that Rotten Tomatoes had that scoring point system, and from here on out I will be using that. I've already fixed my spreadsheet to reflect those scores, and now any given movie can only get up to 40 points, which is a lot less for me to keep track of, and it brings each category into a more fair and even place. Enjoy the video. Hi everybody! So I'm in a completely different getup as the rest of the clips that are going to follow this, because I accidentally deleted the footage for the beginning of this video. I watched a movie called Fierce People. It was released in 2004, 2005. It was directed by Griffin Dunne. Never heard of him. Fierce People was based on a book of the same name by Dirk Wittenborn. He also produced and wrote the screenplay. He shouldn't have had that much power. It is about a young boy named Finn, whose mother is an addict. He gets caught trying to score dope for her, and instead of letting him get arrested, his mother calls a former client who is the 7th richest man in America, and he hires her to come live on his zillion-dollar plot of land in New Jersey. And then it's just basically like, rich people are weird. You would think that I would have liked this movie given the premise, but I really didn't. So, going into pros. Donald Sutherland and Anton Yelchin are both in this. I can't tell you why I like Donald Sutherland, but I just do. Anton Yelchin is a tiny baby in this movie, and it's wonderful. Finn, Anton Yelchin's character, is very loyal to his mom. I actually really liked the use of scenery montage between New York City and New Jersey. I am pretty sure that there is a Boston Terrier cross stitch on Finn's wall. Bryce went to Harvard.
Your father's Fox Blanchard? I read him in my anthro class at Harvard.
I don't know, this was another one where I would go like 10 to 15 minutes without writing anything down. I was kind of like lukewarm about some of it, and then there were parts where I was like, no, or yeah, or no. There's a minor character named Paige, so now I know what it sounds like when Chris Evans says my name.
Paige, can you help me with this?
Finn's mom is a genuinely decent person. I think her character's name is Liz. She makes a lot of like really bad choices, but she's not a bad person. Is this me saying that Liz is my favorite character? Oh, at about almost an hour into the movie, Donald Sutherland says,
I just thought the odds were pretty much in my favor.
As a Hunger Games fan, I had to stop and appreciate the irony there. Bryce is definitely a different kind of character for Chris. Those are all of my pros. So I'm gonna go to cons now. Bryce is kind of awful. There's way too much narration.
Look at that jerk. That's me at 15.
It was a huge info dump right at the beginning of the movie. Because the author of the book also wrote the screenplay, he just kind of like took chunks from his book and put it right on the screen, and then they filmed it that way. And that's not really how adaptations are supposed to go. Donald Sutherland's character, what's his name? Osborne. He's kind of really creepy. When he's like hanging out with Finn, he's not so bad, but like when he's weirdly possessive of Liz, it's weird. Chris's hair is awful in this. For a movie that's set in the 80s, nobody looks like they're from the 80s. It very much looks and feels like a movie that takes place in 2005. The very first thing that they say about Kristen Stewart's character, because Kristen Stewart is also in this movie, is that
And his sister is really into horses.
so I wrote down, a horse girl! There's the use of the R word. Finn and Maya, they move like really quickly. They just met and they are already making out on her father's hospital bed while he's in a coma below them. It was very clear to me that this was written by a white man. There's a very blasé discussion of sexual assault, and they're like laughing about it. There's an idealization of indigenous tribes and groups pretty much throughout the entire, I assume, book, but definitely the movie, because, you know, they're savages. Ooh, look at all this anthropological footage we have of them doing things that we don't understand as white people, but then look at us doing things almost akin to those savage things because we're rich and we can do whatever we want, and that makes us terrible. The parallel is not lost on me, but the way that it's framed and the way that it is continuously brought on genuinely makes me uncomfortable. It definitely felt like there was a lot of justification for like sexualization of children. They're teenagers, but children. For most of the movie, the only characters that act like actual human beings are Bryce and Liz, and then Bryce goes off the rails. I did feel very unprepared for the tough, trigger-inducing type conversations that they have. I was, you know, not comfortable watching it, and you're not supposed to be, but there were some boundaries that were stepped over that definitely did not need to be to make the point that was being made. Finn just sleeps with a sad pregnant girl for apparently no reason. Clearly this was written by a cis white man. Women are just fawning over this character and you just don't get it, and it's probably because he's a stand-in for the author. Turns out that Bryce is like evil. Just like straight up evil. And that's the end of my pros and cons list. From the trailer and from what I had been building up around this movie, I really expected it to be like a cult, but it's really just rich people being weird. My arbitrary rank is song choice. It's from Dizzy and Scout, and I have to say that the songs were interesting to listen to, not very memorable. Like, I couldn't tell you what any of the songs sounded like or really what any of them were. I think there were maybe 2 songs with actual lyrics in the entire movie, and I don't know what either of them were, so song choice is meh. The IMDb score was a 6.6. The Rotten Tomato score was a 4.73. My score was a 4, meaning that I really didn't like it at all. There were some redeemable aspects to it, and I had not seen this movie before. So, I'm out. Today we finally made it into comic book movies with Fantastic Four from 2005. What is this reaction?
It's exactly what you think it
okay.
is. The fact that they didn't do this in 2004 says a lot about the movie.
I'm pretty sure y'all know what Fantastic Four is about, but it's about 4 people.
Who are fantastic.
They go to space for reasons, and then they get superpowers. They don't really explain it that well. Reed Richards is just like, there's a storm out in space that could change the way we evolve as human beings forever. And Victor Von Doom is like,
If NASA doesn't trust you, then why should I?
at first I'm like, it's a good point. Victor's like, I've got money and I kind of want to go to space, so let's do that. Fantastic Four was directed by Tim Story, and the only cool thing about that is that he's a man of color. That's it. There are so many more cons
Wow.
than there are
Wow.
pros.
Alright, Owen,
Angel's gonna read our pros for us.
The first one is Motorcycle Chris.
How far into the movie was
think-
that?
Looks like a few
10.
minutes.
10 minutes?
At
About
least
10 minutes, yeah.
Yeah.
We had nothing before that.
No. Ben Grimm's jacket in like the first 5 minutes.
I don't remember.
I
It
don't
was a
either.
masterpiece.
That bodysuit though.
the space bodysuit.
The one with unnecessary cleavage for space.
That is true.
Okay, but that was not for Johnny.
Johnny's sassed, which is a pro throughout the whole movie.
If you're good, maybe next time Daddy will let you drive.
He was our
Good
torch.
thing. Yeah.
That's the torch that
Exactly, yeah.
Hamish
Linklater?
Linklater?
I like him. He's really not that important, except that he's like Victor Von Doom's assistant, boyfriend thing.
But when it's hard to find a pro in this movie,
Right.
he is a pro. Johnny is so charming.
Characters that are like Johnny tend to be pretty misogynistic, but then like Johnny kind of isn't. I don't think he goes out of his way to like show that he cares, but he also doesn't say things about women to make me think that he
Right.
thinks that they're lesser because they're women. They're just there. They're just people. I actually appreciate that they did not make him shave his chest hair.
Dalmatian.
Oh, the Dalmatian. So our arbitrary rank was like the number of dogs. I can't believe we pulled that for this because there's like no dogs, but there's a Dalmatian because
In
there
a fire
are
truck.
firefighters.
Who somehow made the situation a million times worse.
Yeah, I was happy that the Dalmatian was there, but like, why was the Dalmatian
Good
in
question.
the front seat of the fire truck?
Another person could sit in that spot
Yeah.
and save another person.
Yeah.
Stan Lee's cameo, of course. Johnny makes popcorn by hand.
Oh God, that was.
Paige loves popcorn. Speaking of fire food, the flame broiled Whopper / product placement.
So much product placement. I miss when movies and TV shows could just have product placement.
Kerry Washington is in this.
Also,
Things
if
are
anyone
different.
knows someone that's blind, just let me know. If they're touching faces to figure out a person's face, do they touch the chest first? Because that's what she did. She like felt him up from the abs
Yeah.
up and then his face. And I felt really uncomfortable.
Johnny is right about almost everything.
Johnny is right about almost everything.
What was that in reference to?
I don't
Pretty much
remember.
almost everything.
But
Like,
yeah.
like he accepted his powers almost immediately because he had the coolest
He
powers
embraced
out of
it.
all of them. But then they were like, no, we have to go back. And then by the end of the movie, they're like, yeah, we like our powers now. But Johnny's like, what do you mean now?
I think the only time that he wasn't right about something was,
Okay, Johnny, back it down. I can go harder!
and you could kill the entire planet.
Yeah.
And he's like,
Got it. Supernova. Bad.
Johnny's red blazer.
huh.
It's not a bad one.
This is like the most ideal version of New York City because there was never any traffic. Just
They never
one
have
pigeon.
to take the subway for anything. Okay, we're going into cons. Do you want to read any cons? Or
do
do
this.
you...
I'm just gonna start tossing cons in, so just read off.
There's some weird caption format. They were on opposite sides of the screen.
Oh, so no, it's like the people are talking.
I mean, that's fine, but like
It's not normal.
definitely more accessible to have it in the center
Oh,
because
no.
then you don't have to go
the way
back
they
and
did it
forth.
was really stupid.
There is literal over-the-top foreshadowing about Victor Von Doom. Julian McMahon, he went into this movie thinking, I am only a villain billionaire. I am nothing else but a villain billionaire that becomes literal metal. Victor, like, asks Susan to marry him even though they're not dating. She's clearly not interested in him. He's her employer.
He likes her because he can't have her.
Yeah.
Which is weird, possessive. Don't do
Yeah.
that.
The next one is Reed asking,
What's the worst that can happen?
what do you think is the worst that can happen? You're the scientist! I wrote down that Johnny is right about almost everything because at the very beginning of the movie he says that
You gotta read. World's dumbest smart guy.
every time they show Reed Richards doing anything, he's an...
Even doing the thing that he's good at, he's
Yeah.
still like a complete idiot.
The next con is passage of time.
They're on the space station. Victor's like, I'm gonna propose to Sue right now because we're over Earth. It looks real pretty. I'm gonna propose. The only way she gets out of the proposal is because the computer's like, boop, 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 storm incoming. We about to die. She goes to the computer. She's like, okay, we got 6 minutes. I'm gonna go hop out. Victor's like, all right, bye. Ben is outside of the ship doing we don't know what.
Yeah,
They've
good
never
question.
explained. And then they're like, Ben, jump. Assuming that Ben is jumping around the time Sue's like, I'm gonna go help them, 20 seconds should have passed. And by the time Sue sees all of them and the storm hits them is another 20 seconds. But somehow, 6 minutes has gone by.
The editing for the scene where like the cloud comes through the ship, you get a view
Of like how they end up changing. The storm is literally tearing through the ship, but also the space station is intact.
I wrote down what the happened to Victor because they don't really talk about it.
He locks himself in and then it was just like, I thought I was safe in the protective shields. Because he was turning into the same material made out of the shields, is what he was saying.
Maria Menounos isn't good at her nurse job.
Yeah, so she takes his temperature, and his body temperature rises to 206 degrees.
She would be burned.
He's wearing a coat. He'd be like, oh, I feel really uncomfortable in this coat, and I don't know why.
There's wine in the hospital.
I mean, this is a baller-ass hospital, let's be real.
No context for Reed and Sue's relationship, but really, there's no context for any relationship. The characters will, like, consistently reference, like, huge events that have happened before the movie takes place, and anybody that has never read a Fantastic Four comic will not understand any of those references.
Which is why all the Fantastic Four movies fail. The comics are about their personal relationships, and the movies are about their personal relationships, but they also try to add the superhero aspect to the personal relationships.
The movies are always done as an origin story, but the origin of the Fantastic Four as a cohesive unit does not start with their superpower origin. Reed's weird reaching under the door to get Ben out.
Yeah, they had to zoom in on his fingers flattening. So, like, he's going with his hands like this, and there were, like, grates in front of the door. That means his nails would have gotten, like, peeled back.
Ugh.
But he can just stretch, and his nails are okay. Explain.
And the sound.
Ben only has 4 fingers after he becomes the Thing.
That's a con?
Yeah!
It's a con. How do you lose? 5! Not only did he lose 2 fingers, he lost 2 toes.
So Debbie, Ben's wife?
Oh yeah, his
wife.
wife. He calls her from a payphone, and she didn't think it was weird that he was wearing a trench coat. That's one.
Or that he called
And
her from a payphone.
and
That's 2. She just goes outside in her silk nightie and like the silk robe. That's 3 things in a horror movie that would get you
Yeah,
killed.
right? Why does Ben have to talk a guy off a ledge?
He's a monster, but he's still human.
Sue goes invisible, and they're like, you need to go
Sue,
invisible
take
to
off your
get...
clothes.
Yeah, and then she like stops turning invisible while she's still in her bra and panties, and it's
And then goes
humiliating.
visible.
And thank God for Johnny, who picks them up so that strangers don't just take her wardrobe from her.
Good brother.
They just did that to have Jessica Alba take her clothes off on screen.
Why didn't Reed just stretch to get past?
Why didn't they just go, oh, excuse me, excuse me, excuse me.
Yeah, that's our
excuse me. Or just go, Ben, sorry officer, I know this guy.
I wrote Debbie. Debbie shows up, takes off her wedding ring, and just puts it on the ground because she's like, you're a rock monster. After he literally just saved an entire truck of incompetent firemen.
Just be a normal person, just be like, it's not working out.
Try couples counseling once.
One of the police officers says,
Which one of you is the leader?
That would be me.
Nah, kid, you're too young. That one's a girl, and this guy's orange. It's you.
Johnny is the only one that knows how to like handle a group of people in a public space, like in a public forum, essentially. What's happening with Victor's company?
We don't know.
And I don't care.
Short answer.
There's an investor.
Not anymore.
They don't say what they're investing in. No one cares that Victor was on the spaceship with them.
No one cares.
They never check in with him.
I know some of you might end up watching the movie and go, oh no, it's because he was in the SHIELD and Reed said that the SHIELD was going to protect him. But then Reed was wrong about everything in the movie.
Yeah, they make that pretty clear that Reed is wrong about everything when Sue is like,
It has to be the cloud. It's fundamentally altered our DNA.
The cloud has fundamentally altered our DNA.
Sue said that, you dipshit.
When they're talking about the suits, Reed goes,
Fantastic.
first of all, hate when movies do that.
Material made from self-regulating unstable molecules.
He does a thing on the suit, and the suit gets analyzed and says, molecules unstable, and he's like, oh my gosh, they're unstable.
You already
As
knew that.
if it wasn't.
Sue's power is the only one tied to her emotions. If Sue gets upset, she turns invisible. And if Sue is angry, she turns invisible.
She turns invisible or visible. All the emotions that they had her have when she went invisible, I try to keep track of them, they're all super inconsistent.
Too much naked Sue, so much humiliation.
I think one of the writers has like had like a kink.
You think?
It's like a checklist of a female character. Like, is there cleavage? Check. Is she wearing makeup at a time when a normal woman wouldn't wear makeup?
Oh, yeah.
Check.
Did we do Sexy Librarian? Not yet. Let's check it off soon.
Yeah. Poor Ben and big strong guy is always the dumbest. The thing about that is that we notice that Ben is only dumb when he's a rock.
Because he has rocks for brains, you know?
His speech pattern changes when he's a rock, and
He turns more New York when he's a rock.
Reed Richards' body horror.
Oh, it's so weird.
Every time he stretches his face out, we like...
I get that. Like, you have to showcase people's powers in superhero movies. But when they're stretchy, you don't have to be like, Rita's doing this regular thing, but he's gonna super stretch for it.
Very, very bad voiceovers for Victor post Von Doom mask.
Do you really think fate turned us into gods so we could refuse these gifts?
You can tell it's a voiceover.
It should
Yeah.
be slightly more metallic. This isn't an anime. Get out of my face.
And the last con is the proposal.
Life pro tip for you. If you're ever at a party and your friends kind of like leave the party and like they're clearly having a moment and then like one of them proposes, don't tell the other people at the party so everyone stops dancing and having a good time to watch them, because it's really weird. If they wanted to do like a public proposal in front of you, they would.
So those were our pros and cons. They were mostly cons because this movie is not good.
Silver Surfer's gonna be so much worse.
Our arbitrary rank came from Cold Potato. It was number of dogs. There was one physical dog, and then Johnny says, what does he say?
I say we just let sleeping dogs lie, guys.
Should we go over who's seen it already? Because I hadn't seen it.
You haven't seen it at all?
No.
I'm so sorry.
Oh, at least you have no nostalgic pull
No,
making
I
you
don't.
feel bad about your past mistakes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I grew up with this movie, and you've seen it before.
Yeah,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Yeah. The IMDb score was a 5.7. The Rotten Tomato score was a 4.51.
This
I'll
is-
do a 4.
It's a-
It's appropriate. I think I might say a 4-2.
You give it a 4?
I'm going to give it a fantastic 2. This movie was terrible.
Oh,
Why
man.
would I give it more
It
than
was
2?
really bad. So that's an average of 3 for a total of 17.21 points out of a possible 40.
Yikes.
Thank you so much for watching this video. If you liked it, click the bell below so you don't miss any of the future Christravaganza videos. If you're not already subscribed to The Princess and the Scrivener,
Please do so down below
as
if you'd
well.
like to see more videos on Disney, intersectional feminism, pop culture critiques, and more.
TMNT, it's next.
Stay tuned.
Cowabunga.